The Holloway twins were meant to be buried, two boys, identical in every way except one. One was dead, or so everyone believed. But when the coffin lid was finally nailed shut, the impossible happened. A faint gasp. A breath. A heartbeat. The town of Willow Creek, Missouri, nestled deep in the Ozarks, had never seen anything like it. The year was 1874, and fear was not just a feeling. It was a living, breathing shadow that grew darker with every whispered secret. The Holloway family was respected, yet cursed by tragedy. The twins, Samuel and Eli, were inseparable. When illness struck the family, it took Eli first. Samuel was left broken, but alive. At least, that's what everyone thought. At the funeral, the air was thick with grief and the scent of pine and earth. The local minister recited prayers that trembled on his lips. But as the final hymn died away and the coffin was sealed, a sudden sound shattered the silence. A faint, desperate gasp that came from beneath the heavy wooden lid. Panic seized the mourners. They rushed to pry open the coffin, only to find Eli Holloway's pale face, eyes fluttering open, struggling for breath. But the story didn't end with Eli's impossible survival. Strange occurrences plagued Willow Creek, shadows moving without light, voices murmuring in the dead of night, and an unshakable feeling that the twins were no longer alone. What had returned with Eli? Was it truly him? Or something darker? This is the story of the Holloway twins, a tale of death, resurrection, and a secret so dangerous it threatened to consume the entire town. Years later, old letters and fragmented journals tell a story that was buried beneath layers of silence and fear. Samuel and Eli were born under a blood moon, a night the town elders whispered about but never named aloud. The boys grew fast and strong, but they shared more than looks. They shared a connection that blurred the line between life and death. When the sickness came, it was sudden and merciless. Eli fell first, cold and still as the river in winter. The town mourned, but the night before the burial, neighbors claimed to hear strange noises from the Holloway home, soft crying that wasn't quite human, and the sound of two voices speaking at once. On the day of the funeral, the coffin was placed carefully in the earth, but the gasps from within revealed a terrifying truth. Eli was not dead. The doctors were baffled. The local midwife insisted it was a miracle, but Samuel's eyes told a different story, one of dread and unspoken terror. In the weeks that followed, the boys became a source of unease. Samuel's demeanor changed, growing cold and distant, while Eli's recovery was marked by moments of silence interrupted by sudden, chilling laughter. At night, townsfolk reported seeing two figures wandering the woods, sometimes one, sometimes two, but never both clearly alive. A darkness had settled over Willow Creek, and the Holloway twins were at its heart. The townspeople tried to forget, but the Holloway twins would not be ignored. Strange marks appeared on trees near the river, symbols that no one could decipher. Livestock vanished, and the river ran thick with red at dawn. One evening, Eli disappeared. His bed was cold, untouched, as if he had simply vanished into the night. Samuel remained, but something about him had shifted. He spoke in a voice that was not entirely his own. Whispers spread that the twins had made a pact with forces beyond understanding. That death had not been a boundary, but a doorway. And those who dared to venture near the Holloway property at night heard the twins calling out, their voices entwined in a chilling duet. The town's fate was sealed, trapped forever in the shadows of the Holloway twins and the dark secret they carried, a secret that no one dared to uncover. The chill in the Missouri night deepened as the Holloway twins' story spread beyond the borders of Willow Creek. Fear took root, like the gnarled roots of the ancient oaks, twisting through the lives of every man, woman, and child who dared to whisper their names. Samuel Holloway was no longer the boy his neighbors once knew. His eyes held a hollow void, and a coldness lingered in his voice like the edge of a winter storm. Some nights he would vanish into the dense Ozark woods, returning with a wildness that unsettled even the bravest. Eli, who should have been dead, was a living mystery. Though he had survived that dreadful burial, something in him had changed. His laughter was a brittle sound, and his gaze often drifted to places where nothing stood. The town doctor, an old man named Dr. Carver, grew increasingly concerned. He spoke in hushed tones about possession and restless spirits, but his warnings fell on deaf ears. Whispers spoke of strange happenings. Livestock found lifeless with eyes wide open, crops withering overnight, and a strange, unexplainable fog that clung to the Holloway property, refusing to lift even in the brightest daylight. One evening, a group of young men, emboldened by drink and bravado, ventured to the Holloway house to confront whatever darkness lurked within. They found the house eerily silent, the air thick with the scent of damp wood and something far fouler beneath. In the parlor, the fireplace burned low, casting long shadows. On the mantel hung a faded portrait of the twins, one alive, one dead, their faces blurred by time but their eyes seemingly watching. Suddenly, a chilling sound filled the room, the faint gasp that had once echoed from Eli's coffin. The men fled, swearing that the twins' voices had called them by name, whispering secrets no human should know. As the days turned into weeks, Samuel grew more reclusive, speaking less and less to anyone. Eli, however, was seen wandering the edge of the river, staring into the murky depths as if waiting for something or someone. Then came the night the river ran red. The townsfolk awoke to screams carried on the wind. They rushed to the riverbank to find the water thick with blood and the bodies of several animals strewn across the shore. Among them was a child-sized figure, pale and lifeless, eyes wide open in eternal horror. The Holloway twins were at the center of the town's nightmare, and their story was far from over. The sun dipped behind the Ozark Hills, casting long shadows over Willow Creek as a heavy silence settled over the town. Fear had taken root deep within the hearts of its people, weaving itself into every whispered conversation and every nervous glance toward the Holloway property. Samuel Holloway had all but disappeared from public life. His mother's once lively home now stood cold and shuttered, its windows staring like dark, empty eyes. But the nights told a different story. Locals whispered of strange lights flickering in the Holloway woods, ghostly glows that pulsed with a rhythm like a heartbeat. Others spoke of hearing two voices in the night, speaking in a language no one could understand, a haunting duet that chilled the blood. One night, driven by desperation and curiosity, Reverend Matthews, the town's minister, gathered a small group of brave souls to confront the darkness that had gripped Willow Creek. Armed with candles, crosses, and prayers, they made their way to the Holloway house. The house greeted them with an oppressive stillness, the air thick and suffocating. Inside, the fireplace lay cold and dead, and the faint scent of decay lingered. As they explored the shadowed rooms, they found relics of the past, children's toys covered in dust and the faded portrait of the twins, their eyes seeming to follow every step. Suddenly, from the depths of the house came a soft gasp, just like the one heard at Eli's funeral. The group froze, hearts pounding. The gasp grew into a whisper, then a low, chilling laughter that seemed to echo from the very walls. Panicked, the group fled into the night, but the damage was done. The townsfolk were no longer safe. Days later, Samuel was seen wandering near the river, his face pale and drawn, eyes hollow but shining with an unnatural light. Eli too appeared, though he seemed changed, his movements jerky and unnatural, as if pulled by unseen strings. The twins no longer seemed human. Then, the nightmares began. Children of Willow Creek awoke screaming, claiming to have seen two shadowy figures at the foot of their beds, whispering secrets in voices that were both familiar and terrifying. Families began leaving, abandoning homes to the creeping darkness. The town's once vibrant spirit faded like the last embers of a dying fire. The Holloway twins had become the heart of a nightmare that would consume Willow Creek, and anyone who dared to uncover the truth. The days grew colder, and the shadows longer, as the Holloway twins' presence tightened its grip on Willow Creek. The once lively town was now a hushed ghost of itself. Windows shuttered, streets empty except for the whispers carried on the chilling wind. Samuel Holloway was rarely seen by daylight. When he appeared, his movements were slow and deliberate, eyes glazed as though trapped between two worlds. Eli's appearances were more unsettling. Sometimes he would stand silently by the riverbank, staring into the dark waters as if listening to secrets only he could hear. The local doctor, Dr. Carver, grew desperate. He had seen strange marks appear on the twins' skin. Faint, swirling patterns that seemed to shift and writhe like living tattoos. His journal detailed nights filled with piercing screams that echoed through the woods, and an eerie glow that pulsed from the Holloway house after midnight. One particularly harsh evening, a scream shattered the stillness, echoing from the river's edge. Villagers gathered to find Samuel standing at the water, drenched and trembling, muttering words in a voice not his own. "They come," he whispered, eyes wide with terror. "The ones beneath, the ones we buried." The townsfolk remembered the old legends, whispers of restless spirits trapped beneath the riverbed, of souls disturbed and refusing to rest. The Holloway twins were more than just boys. They were a bridge between the living and the dead, a connection no one had dared to cross before. That night, a group of villagers dared to follow the twins into the woods. As they moved deeper, the air grew cold and heavy, and the trees seemed to close in around them. In a clearing, they found a circle of ancient stones, carved with symbols matching those on the twins' skin. Before they could react, a low chanting filled the air, a voice both childlike and ancient weaving through the darkness. The twins stood at the center, eyes glowing faintly, hands raised as if commanding unseen forces. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. A thick fog rolled in, swallowing the villagers' screams. When the mist cleared, the twins were gone, and so was the town's last hope. The morning sun rose over a town hollowed out by fear and silence. Willow Creek was no longer a place where children played or neighbors greeted each other on dusty roads. It had become a waiting ground, waiting for the darkness to claim what it had touched. News of the twins' disappearance spread like wildfire, igniting panic in the hearts of those who remained. Some fled into the hills. Others barricaded themselves indoors, whispering prayers to gods who seemed deaf to their pleas. Dr. Carver, the town's last remaining voice of reason, pored over his journals and notes, desperate for a way to break the curse that had entwined itself with the Holloway family. His pages told of an ancient ritual, buried in the folklore of the Ozarks, a ceremony meant to sever the ties between the living and the restless dead. Gathering a small group of trusted villagers, Dr. Carver led them deep into the forest, toward the circle of stones where the twins had last been seen. The air was thick with anticipation and dread as they prepared to confront whatever force held the twins and the town in its grasp. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows, the ritual began. Words in a forgotten tongue echoed through the trees, candles flickered against the growing darkness, and a heavy silence settled over the clearing. Suddenly, the ground quaked, and the fog thickened into a suffocating shroud. From within the mist emerged two figures, Samuel and Eli, but they were no longer the boys everyone had known. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and their movements were jerky, puppet-like. A chilling smile crept across Eli's face as he whispered, "You cannot undo what has been done." The villagers' hearts froze. The twins had become vessels for something far older and darker than death itself. A cold wind howled through the trees as the ritual's power faltered. The forest seemed alive with whispers, promises, and threats. With a sudden burst of unnatural strength, the twins vanished into the fog, leaving behind only echoes and the heavy weight of despair. Willow Creek was left to rot in silence, its fate sealed by the Holloway twins' terrible secret, a secret that refused to die. The years that followed were marked by silence and shadows. Willow Creek slowly faded from maps, its stories whispered only in hushed tones around distant campfires. Yet the dark legacy of the Holloway twins refused to be forgotten. Samuel and Eli had become legends, neither fully alive nor dead, trapped between worlds, their presence a curse upon the land. Travelers passing near the old riverbend told of hearing children's laughter carried on the wind, a laughter that twisted into cries of despair. Some claimed to glimpse two figures watching from the tree line, pale faces staring with hollow eyes that seemed to pierce the soul. The townsfolk who remained spoke of a final warning scrawled in Dr. Carver's last journal. The twins are not gone. They are bound to this place, guardians of a secret so dark it would unravel the fabric of our world. To seek them is to invite the darkness into your soul. One stormy night, a lone wanderer, drawn by the stories and the promise of forgotten truths, ventured into the forest. The wind howled like a living thing, and the river churned with unnatural fury. As lightning split the sky, the wanderer saw them, two shadowed figures standing by the river, their eyes glowing with cold fire. They spoke, voices intertwined like a deadly song. We spoke the secrets no one should hear. Now, the silence will consume all. And with that, the forest swallowed the wanderer whole, leaving only silence and the faintest echo of laughter behind. The Holloway twins remained, eternal, dangerous, and listening. Their secret was never meant to be uncovered. Thank you for joining this journey into the dark heart of Willow Creek on Forgotten Remains. If you dare, subscribe and turn on notifications, because some stories refuse to stay buried. Remember, some secrets are best left silent,